What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of the TRIFLIX Cast. I'm Tristan, and this is
Cole.
I'm
here.
Yeah. So what is this? It's the thing that we just do in the middle of every other week. Where I don't know, what do we do, Cole?
Nothing productive.
It's just breaking down some things that we see in our industry or projects that we're currently working on within what is our industry?
Film.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah,
we do film.
Commercial filmmaking.
But not like traditional filmmaking.
Yeah, not so much.
Nope. Not at all.
No, people that we film are fully clothed.
We're going to redo this? We're going to... and we're going to...
What?
The hell do you mean they're fully clothed?
That's the part of the film industry that we work in. Not the part of the film industry where they're not clothed.
But is that really what defines what we do?
No, but it's entertaining.
All right, roll an intro.
I thought it was good.
Roll the intro. Okay, welcome to the TRIFLIX Cast, the bi-weekly show where we break down things in our industry where we're clothed. And in the industry that we're in is the filmmaking, independent creator space, entrepreneurial, all those things that relate, and a bunch of stuff that doesn't.
All the good buzzwords.
All those good tags for SEO. So if you're here and you clicked on this video, it's because we found you. You didn't find us.
Nope.
We found you.
We knew you were coming all along.
Yeah. You came for this tag up here.
Right. Or this one.
Oh yeah, we don't do any post-production on these. They just go live.
Use your imagination.
Yeah. Whatever it is you search, that's why you're here. We knew it was going to happen. But we do have some things that we want to talk about today. Cole, what are they?
Hold on. We have an outline, and Tristan normally writes it.
Yeah, that's why it's hard to read.
That's exactly right. Usually is a lack of punctuation and grammar, all the
there's
things.
Just a lot of missing in between words, as I call them. Anything that's not a noun is just a void of the
things that your brain automatically should fill in.
Yeah,
I don't even look at it. I know it's up on the Trello. I just go.
Let's
wild.
just go straight.
I was
into
gonna say,
that. Trello.
Yeah, Trello.
What the heck's a Trello? All right, project management. Let's talk about that.
Shark.
So we've had quite a few projects in the last couple weeks, and
yes.
A lot of them are like reoccurring projects where you have one client asking for like 8 videos or 9 videos, or we just picked up another 3 videos for a client. And you have to manage all of those projects.
And don't miss anything.
Yeah,
and communicate.
And how do we do that? Sticky notes. So many sticky notes.
Yes.
No.
What are sticky notes, Tristan?
No,
the fanciest of sticky notes.
No, that would be a terrible way to run a company. You shouldn't use sticky. I mean, maybe in the side sticky notes, but you won't want to use that for the project management.
Didn't you used to use sticky notes?
I still do.
Yeah.
Well, we use virtual sticky
We
notes
do.
now.
We use a virtual Kanban system, and it is just a bunch of columns that we use for like our production pipeline. So you have write, shoot, edit, distribute, get feedback, and then we go through this pipeline of our projects. So we have this digital thing called Trello, and it makes it really easy. I like it a lot.
I know that they just came out with a bunch of updates, and I want them, but we have to be paid.
For the power-ups, or what do you mean?
No, they like redesigned it.
Trello?
Yeah, they did one of the largest updates they've done since launch, and it's got all these new features. I wish I could remember them, but it looked really fancy, but you have to be a paid member.
I'd pay for Trello. So the reason I bring that up is I recently got Cole onto it after being on it for probably 2 years, and I was given this information by David. He got me on it originally.
That guy.
I tried to get you on it, and then you came around. You got into it.
Eventually.
Yeah.
Eventually. I started using it for pretty much everything. We use it. We have individual boards for large clients that we have where it's large reoccurring projects. And then we have our main pipeline board, and that is all of our individual one-off clients. And we can move it through this process of, like I said, the writing phase, the We go out and do shoots, we edit, we get reviews, we have to go through billing. There's just a lot of steps that people forget are part of the independent filmmaking side, where, you know, you only have a handful of people doing a ton of different jobs.
Yep.
And it helps keep us organized. And then we paired that with Monday.com, which you found for us.
Yeah, for better or for worse.
I hate that they named it Monday.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous. Why?
Well, the hard part
I
about
know.
having that name Monday is just if you need assistance and you want to like do a search online, you're like Monday, how to like start projects or how to organize, or Monday templates. It brings up a bunch of things that are related to the day of the week and not the actual software.
Yeah, it's like we haven't even explained what it is, but you have no idea how to tell what Monday is by us talking. Monday.com tells you nothing about what the service is.
It's true though. And every time we talk about it, we're like, "Hey, did you see the changes in Monday?" And they're like, "Monday," or "Did you check Monday?" And you're like, "Did I check on what on Monday?"
Right. It's like the who's on first, what's on second.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
And Monday's been really good, and we don't use that for project management so much as deadline tracking. And technically you could do that in Trello as well, but I just like the way the UI looks. It's line items, and it's just like one line of text versus having like large chunks.
It's good for time tracking.
Yes.
It is good for time
you
tracking.
like that a lot.
Yeah, I love it for time tracking.
I think the way that they explain it themselves, like Monday.com, the company, I think it's like it's a powered up fancy Excel essentially, because the thing is like it's an open software, not in the sense of coding, but it's open in the way of, you know, they have templates that you can set up, and it's just a grid system. So part of what I pulled it on for was so that we have a CRM, which is a client relations manager.
Yeah. So we can put in like the names of the client, the company they work for, industries they're related to, contact information, and just put a bunch. It's like an aggregate of a bunch of our information that we can go to. So whether I'm working on a project or Cole's working on a project, or whoever starts it, another person can go in and seamlessly see all of this information relative to the client,
right,
the project, and all of these are tied together using different, I don't know what they call them, bots or
integrations. I think.
Integrations, yeah. Not to cut you off, but I mean that's just what we use it for, really.
Yeah, and we just have, so it's kind of the same thing. I mean, and it's not the same thing as Trello, but we kind of use it as an extension of that, in conjunction of the two. And it's, again, we're like, we can set up all these different boards essentially that all clip together. So they share information, they share data, and again, it's all online based. So if I have an interaction with a customer, that was kind of a big point for us, is if I have an interaction with a client, I can put an update in. And then next time, if David has interaction or Tristan does, he can go into the updates, look and see when we talked last, what we talked about, and start the conversation without having to go, "Hey, Cole, you know, when did you talk to Joe Schmo the other day, and what about?"
And this is not us advocating for you to use a Monday or anything. I'm just saying in general, if you're a company, you need to have some way of project management, and that's why we have it. And I brought this up for a reason.
Yes.
Because we pay money every month for this as a service, and there's still holes in the way that they have it set up. It's very startup based. Like it's very early, almost beta. A lot of the features that we use are beta features, so I can't complain too much about how well they function. We had one issue with the software where I was keeping track of all the hours for a project, and some of the hours didn't convert from the project to the graphs and data. And I use those graphs and data to bill our customers on an hourly basis. And because those hours were missing, I went back and checked all the numbers. I was missing out on thousands of dollars of income.
Gosh.
So I'm like, hey, Monday.
It's like, you don't mess around with my income.
Monday, what are you doing? What are you doing, Monday? But there's workarounds to get it fixed. The thing that Monday's supposed to be is very automated.
Yes.
And the issues that I'm having are due to the automations not functioning properly. And that's just kind of frustrating, because then I have to go back and manually fix things that the automation should be repairing.
We've run into that with Monday. Not that, again, we're not saying use it or don't use it. We use it for the time being, but
I really like it.
We've run into some of the small issues that you would think would make sense, that they would work, that they would be very functional even at this early stage, and they're not. But Tristan's taking care of that. He makes sure and lets the Monday crew know.
What things we can work on and fix. And what it really comes down to is similar to Excel. You have rows and columns, and the very first one is like your primary column, and that's what drives all the data following that row. And the primary one is the name or the title, and their graphs will not pull data from the title. It has to be from the primary column. It has to be like a subcategory. And since I can't pull data from that title column and to make graphs, I have to make a duplicate column and name it the exact same thing that the title column is. So it's just repetitive data. And the only reason I missed it was because we usually use Trello integrations. So Trello, we make a project with a client and it immediately populates Monday. Well, then we have Monday will make another automation where once that line item's created and it has the title, it also makes another column with the exact same name. So it's all automated. It's redundant, but it's still automated and it shouldn't be a problem. The issue occurs whenever you make a row that isn't from Trello and you just manually create a project. And the reason I would do that is if I have time tracking for something that doesn't really have a workflow, maybe it's just an update to a client's website or something, and they just need the title changed. I don't need to make a whole card for that,
right?
Because it takes me like 3 seconds to do. But if I'm doing that over the course of a month and it's a bunch of 3-second random unique changes, that's a couple minutes to a couple hours, depending on how many of those I have to do. And over the course of a couple months, it equaled out to a couple $1,000. So, yeah. Thanks.
Now you know.
Now I know.
Nothing better than learning that way.
Yeah. What do you want to talk about?
What do I want to talk about?
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be from there. I don't care.
I want to hear about...
I have things that I want to talk about, so let's say you have a spat.
No, I want to hear about this. Here, let's talk about Bitcoin and Dogecoin.
Oh, David can talk about that.
Yeah.
Oh, if we want to talk about that?
Ooh, yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. What do we want to talk about?
Well, I know that David over here is he owns a ton of Dogecoin.
Yeah.
The only reason that one's going up in price is because he's been buying it up.
Yeah, he's driving that price up.
Yeah.
So Bitcoin, Dogecoin, what is it? 'Cause I still don't fully comprehend chain.
Blockchain. We want to start with blockchain?
Sure.
Yeah.
Give me somewhat out of blockchain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. First off, what's the difference between like stocks in a company and these coins? Like, why are people equating? Oh, you could buy GameStop or Amazon or Apple, and people are like, well, why would you buy that when you could invest in Bitcoin? Like, what are the differences between those options?
So
volatility.
Yeah, they're both very volatile. For very similar reasons, because stocks it's represented by what people value. It's like GameStop has value because they want it to have value, and so they buy it. And there's like supply and demand, like the basic economics that you learn. And so that's kind of how that is. I'm not like a financial major or an accountant or anything, so nothing that I'm going to say is verified information. Go
Disclaimer.
Go talk to an official person who knows what they're talking about. This is just general knowledge that I've gathered. But it's kind of the same thing with Bitcoin and all these like digital currencies, is that they have a rarity to them. So there's like a hard cap on how much can exist, and that's a whole like different aspect of it. But it's also like people need to value it, or else it's not going to be worth anything to anybody. And so that's kind of how I see it. I don't know if everybody agrees that's how Bitcoin or Dogecoin.
So where does the value of it come from? It's just because a limited number exists and a limited number could ever be produced within a time frame?
Yes. So it goes back to that word blockchain, and that's the world of like these cryptocurrencies is based on the fact is that everybody's doing transactions with them, and then everybody has like a public ledger of all these transactions. And so everybody's just writing down, oh, you gave him $20 and you gave him like $40, or you owe me $50. And that is the only thing that's like keeping track of what amount of money is in the world. And you get rewarded for keeping track of the ledger and helping verify those transactions. Because if it's all public and everybody's just saying, hey, I gave you this, or hey, I did that, it'd be kind of hard to prove anything otherwise.
So blockchain is people volunteering their hardware, like their computer, in their off time when they're not using it, to be calculating these ledgers.
Yes, and the calculations come into play is when is that verification process, because you need to make sure those are real transactions. And so there's groups of them like at a time combined into blocks, and previous blocks that have been verified help verify new ones by finding the crypto
Not that crypto crap.
The crypto crap. Yeah. That's where the crypto part comes into cryptocurrency, is that you're dealing with things called hashes, which is you take an input, you run it through a machine, and then it throws out a unique number. So like all these transactions can be represented by a very special unique name or an ID. And that's really important, because if anything in those transactions changed, so if like I gave you $39 instead of $40, it would completely change the name of that block. And so that's what we do, is we have a whole bunch of computers running and saying, this block of transactions gives me this name or this really big number, and it's unique to it. And so if everybody agrees these are the transactions that happened, you can't really make up a fake one. Because there's just so many securities. Like you have to sign off on a transaction, you have to approve it, and that also has its own little unique ID. And but it's really expensive and a really expensive task to find out what that special ID is.
Just because of energy consumption of it.
Yeah, and that's intentional. It could be super easy to find the ID, but it was designed so it has to be very expensive and time consuming to find that right ID. And the previous IDs from other blocks are included in new ones.
Okay.
And so that's why it's called a chain, because they're all connected. And you can't like go back and change the past, because it would radically change everything else.
So
Gotcha.
It's like, why are we talking about this? What does this have to do with our industry? The reason this is cool, outside of just an investing standpoint, where, and I guess I should probably paraphrase everything. You got these computers in the background, and they're running calculations to determine whether or not a bunch of real world transactions existed and how they interacted throughout the world. And by doing this validation, they're getting hashes and creating blocks. And then I'm like, getting it. I'm getting it. Like, this is me like learning it for the first time, because I've known about it for like 2 or 3 years, and you explaining it actually helped me understand, I think, enough of it. So that's like the concept. It has value because there's a limited supply of it, and people want it for various reasons, and that's up to the individual. The same way people pay a lot of money for art. Right? So like Mona Lisa, ton of money. Why is it valuable? Because there's only one, and nobody else can have it. However, what if you want to make really expensive art, right? How do you do that? Especially now that everything's digital. There's a new thing called crypto art. And crypto art makes a lot more sense to me now that you explained.
What is crypto art?
Yeah,
Bitcoin.
I've never heard of this.
Crypto art, I just learned about this the other week. It is the idea of creating digital art pieces that you know how like somebody would make a digital art and you're like, I can just do save as, and I can make a copy of it, and now I have two, and there's an unlimited supply. The idea of using the same technology for crypto, of just giving something an ID and then saying there's only one of this in the world, and then using a public ledger to document that there's only one in the world that was in transaction.
Okay.
That's freaking cool.
So as an artist, it wouldn't just be photography, it could be digital paintings, it could be video work, it could be anything. And then whenever you produce it, somebody else buys it, and it's like, I have the only TRIFLIX video in the world. I have the only photography from this artist. And that's where the value comes in, because if you invest now in an artist that you really like, in 20 years from now, if they blow up, let's say you found Justin Bieber whenever he was like 13, before he really got famous, and you're like, I like that song, I'm buying that song, or this headshot, or whatever it is, you can say you have the only one in the world. Now, people can always screenshot, but or copy save as, but there is a loss of data in that.
Right.
So at the end of the day, you would say, I have the highest quality version of it. So even if people try to steal it, it's the same idea of going to the Louvre Museum. Is that where the Mona Lisa is? I think it's the Louvre.
I don't know.
It's
a great question.
Okay. Wherever you go to Mona Lisa and you take your phone out and you take a picture with your phone, you're like, I have a photo of the Mona Lisa. It's like, yeah, but it's not the same. No one's going to pay you the same amount for that as the original. And because crypto art is a public ledger, everyone knows who has the real version. Or you could, at least if you wanted to sell it, you could validate you have the original copy.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whoever started doing that, that's smart.
Yeah. Well, that idea completely stemmed from cryptocurrency.
Right.
And it's leading this new trajectory for artists where you don't have to go through a distribution center. Like, you can be successful on your own, just having a small YouTube community or Facebook or Instagram or wherever your community is like that. Those people can be enough to support you.
That's smart.
Yeah.
That's smart, because that stuff, everything can just be copied and duplicated. Everything.
And
especially in our industry.
Yeah. And especially like the music industry too, as an individual artist. I would want a lot of people to see my videos or my photography or whatever it is, but to sell their rights to it and to say you're the person that technically owns it is a really cool concept.
That's crazy.
Who's going to start the Napster for crypto art?
Steal your crypto art.
I mean, piracy is kind of making a surge again now that like all of like Hulu and Netflix are taking the rights to things, and people don't want to pay a ton for
30 streaming services.
Yeah. So I mean, in a way, piracy is coming back, and essentially that's all Napster was just a central hub for piracy.
Till you get a letter from your ISP.
I don't know if I want to talk about that.
But that's okay, because our unofficial sponsor, NordVPN, can help you keep that private.
Keep you safe. You can
Keep you safe.
You can safely browse from Norway. Japanese Netflix, you got it.
I mean, that's a good point. I'm talking about sponsors. We don't have any. And
we would love one.
We would love a good old sponsor.
Yeah. I like money.
I like money. Do you like money?
Yeah.
I'm on the fence about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, cryptocurrency maybe?
Crypto art.
I want some Dogecoin.
Yeah, send me some of that Doge, bro.
Send me some Doge.
Is that trading over 5 cents?
I don't know what's that right now.
Well, speaking of art, I want to hear about this. I know you've got on the docket for rotoscoping and AI. There's like a piece of software that you wanted to talk about.
I did.
I want to hear about this.
EbSynth. So we're talking about how technology is evolving, and it changes the way the art industry works as a whole, how video making and all this works. Rotoscoping is the thing you do as an artist on 2D products, so videos and photos, and you take a little tool and you just trace around something, and you can take it out of the photo or video and remove the background, or you can go around it and remove the inner part of it. And that's all rotoscoping is. You're just tracing around things and removing elements. And it's really cool because you use it in VFX. You trace around somebody, you can add an explosion behind them, or you trace around a car and you replace the hood with like I don't know, like an explosion. Everything's explosions. Explosions. A dented hood, whatever. Like, there's a lot of VFX to it, and there's a lot of layers. And rotoscoping is extremely notorious for being time consuming because you have to go around everything. And in a movie, it's usually 24 frames per second. So every second you have to trace around something 24 times. And a 10-second clip of, let's say it's like Star Wars or something big, and you just have to rotoscope around Han Solo so that you can add a big sun and the second sun in the sky behind his head, because Star Wars has tons of planets, right?
Tons.
So you got to add this sun behind him, and it's 10 seconds of the footage, and there's 24 frames. It's 240 frames, and it's going to take one artist probably about 4 or 5 hours to do that, depending on how complex the hair is, because you have to go around all like the little fibers of the hair. Otherwise, he's going to have like this helmet head of hair where it's just like real smooth. So they have to be very delicate and be very intentional about how they're doing this. This isn't something you can do mindlessly. However, technology is advancing, and there's a new piece of software called EbSynth, and it is AI that looks at a lot of photos of people and does this algorithm to know what people look like over many iterations. And it's like, this is hair, and this is eyes, and this is a face. So then you can just select the person you want to remove or to trace around or to rotoscope around, and it'll select them. And it does it pretty well, as long as you don't get too crazy with it. And the reason I bring that up is if a person's moving really fast, like there's a lot of motion blur. So the faster I'm moving, the easier it is to rotoscope around, because there's a lot of change in what you're seeing at the same time. But if a person's sitting really still and you try to rotoscope it, my arm's just moving slightly, or the hairs on my hand are moving slightly, and then over a longer period of time, there's very little change, and the computer gets confused and it looks like crap. That's just what happens. And it's the same if you did it by hand or if you did it with AI software. So there's some limitations to it, but if a person's moving, it's much faster to use this EbSynth software, and it just does it automatically.
Right. It's a time saver.
Yeah.
And I use Final Cut, but some people use Premiere, and Premiere's had this thing called Roto Brush or whatever for a long time. And everybody's like, "Oh, why do I need EbSynth or whatever if Premiere's been doing this forever?" Because Adobe's built on old code that's like 20 years old, and it's outdated, and it crashes all the time. And EbSynth has some issues with it too, but it's AI based, so it's going to develop and get better and better just by you using it alone. Plus, it's a global network, so everybody using it's going to make it better. And RotoBrush is just going to be the same in 10 years from now, unless someone goes in and updates the code.
Which I'll throw it in. I know that Adobe's doing a lot more AI stuff. There's a lot of it that's based through AI. I know you don't use Adobe very much. I use it on a day-to-day basis, and I try to pay attention to it a little bit. So along those same lines, I don't work as much with actual, not film, but videos. Mm-hmm. So I work more with still images, but still, for our podcast thumbnails or whatever, I'm rotoscoping around everybody so that I can pull and pluck and change things from images. Over time, they've now made it so where you can just hit buttons that's like, select subject or refine the hair so it can pick out specific spots. All that's AI based now.
Yeah.
Or picking, like now they have a feature in Photoshop where it can actually find the sky through AI and then replace it. Mm-hmm. And so all those features are backed up from the cloud now and are all AI based.
Yeah.
So I know that they're like implementing those things across Adobe products as well. Not saying that they don't still crash, because they still crash all the time, especially Premiere. I don't have the issue as much with Photoshop and Lightroom, but no, I mean, I think
it'll eventually affect all software. And it makes sense that it starts at 2D level first. So like you have Lightroom and Photoshop. Those are 2D software for a still image. Yeah. And then eventually it'll work its way into moving pictures, because a movie or a video is just 24 frames per second or 60 or whatever they're shooting at. But regardless, for it to work in Lightroom, okay is good. But to take something that's okay and say, do that 24 times every second, it would take longer to render. That's fine, whatever. Yep. I'll wait if it does it automatically because that's time I don't have to work on it. However, whenever it spits out the image and everyone's okay, whenever you like try to stack up all these layers in a row and watch it in a row, like the hairs on the person's head will constantly be appearing and disappearing, right? Like part of their face will appear and disappear because it's doing an okay job on a still image, but you still have to doctor that. And that's what you're doing with like Rotobrush.
Yes.
That's what people are also doing with Rotobrush for video, and they have to do that over and over. It's just time consuming. So I don't like disagree. It's awesome for like still images, and eventually it'll be awesome for video too. It's just that EbSynth is the first one to take a full-on AI approach to rotoscoping without requiring legacy code.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm sure there's probably some other niche companies that have been bought out by Google over the last 10, 15 years that did the same thing.
Probably.
But I just think it's really cool because they're open source, and it was in alpha. I think it's in beta now. And there's only a handful of people in the world that use it regularly. And the ones that are using it regularly are kind of blown up on YouTube now.
Yeah. Joel Haver. He was like only maybe 12,000 subscribers. He was pretty small on YouTube, and he blew up on Reddit with his it was like a Skyrim video that he did it in. It's like the first time playing an RPG ever, and it's like about this character that goes through and accidentally like kills the main character of the story.
Yeah.
And it's just really well done. And like one of the main things that sold it was that the stylized rotoscoping that the AI helped generate. It was nothing like it.
So there's another artist that I wanted to plug on here, and I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's from Brazil, and somewhere in the corner, I'm going to link his channel at this part. He was doing these insane VFX shots where he makes a similar looking costume, and without any VFX, the costume looks terrible. But he's pushing the idea of how great this AI software is. So he can make this like crappy looking armor out of construction paper, and he can like draw, like a couple of lines under his face, and maybe do his hair a different way. And it looks worse than a Halloween costume. And he walks on and he'll do the recording, and then he uses this EbSynth software, this rotoscoping software, and it not only traces around a person, you can apply effects to it, and it'll apply those effects to all of the additional frames, not just the first one. So he would draw a little bit of detail in the armor in Photoshop and make it look really good. And then the software knows, okay, so this is what this crappy armor looks like on every frame, and you want it to look like this really good armor that you hand drew. I'm going to take this image that you did by hand and apply it to all of them. Now, Joel Haver did this by just doing animations, and he just does a crappy little South Park outline of his person and draws like a smile on him. And then it applies that outline and color to all of them. But this guy, he's taking it like to a whole nother extreme where he's applying scars to the face, and he's completely changing the way the hair looks. And it's not a cartoon, it's photoreal. So like VFX shots that would have taken weeks to do or require 3D modeling, and you'd have to track the face, and you'd have to replace the head with a new one. You can look like whoever you want, and it's the same application as what is the face swapping thing that everybody was talking about like a year ago during the elections? Deepfake. That's Spencer, by the way. He's here for the podcast.
He's somewhere.
We don't have a camera on him.
He's back in the corner. He's in the corner. Stay there, boy.
It's the same thing as deepfakes, but instead of just using it on the face, he's taking EbSynth and applying it to the shoulders or the hair or wherever he wants, and taking that image and applying it to all of them. And it works really well straight on. Now, if you like want to turn the head sideways and from over the shoulder, then it gets a little wonky, but AI will just keep getting better.
So that brings the question. I've seen articles all over the place of people going, is AI ruining video and photography? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I feel like I've talked enough.
I was just curious.
I'll
pitch in after you.
I think technology is good because it makes hard tasks simpler, and then you can focus on other things that you want to focus on the film. However, the downside to that is simple problems that used to exist keep getting covered by technology. So some of like the creative muscles are kind of, I think, going away a little bit because you could have been applying it to this old process and some dude with technology fixed it. And that's an excuse a lot of people use. So I think there's always going to be a number of problems on set or a number of VFX shots or whatever that you want to do. And isn't the whole point for creatives to be able to take a concept in their mind and make it reality? If that process is simpler, then I don't think that's a bad thing. And anybody that disagrees with that is probably a traditionalist. And that's not a bad thing either. If you like doing claymations by hand, even though you could probably do the similar effect in 3D software a lot faster and fix it a lot easier in post, then do claymations, because that's what you like and that's what you want to do. But it doesn't make the new way of doing it any less valid. However, like throwing LUTs and grades on your Instagram post doesn't make you an artist either. Yeah. If that's what you like to do, then go for it. But
I think that's probably, because I agree with everything you said, of course. But I think that's probably the biggest problem that people have with it, outside of the, just, I think it's the accessibility. Because you're taking that ceiling of accessibility and pulling it down, and then you do get that portion of people that's like, well, hey, this is more accessible, I'm going to do this. Now I'm in that realm.
But when it's like, that a bad thing?
I'm not saying that it's a bad thing per se, but it's like, again, throwing something on just because you're like, oh, okay, this works and this looks cool, and then you move on down the road. Like, where does the skill come in? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think having to learn through the process like we have, and go, okay, like, I'm going to try to tackle this task, whether that's photography or video. And I've had to do it the long way. You know what I mean? And so you respect the process and you respect the new tools, and it's not just something that was just there the whole time.
Yeah, I can see that.
Right?
I think that taking the time to invest and learn something it does give you like a respect for it and the work that goes into it.
Because it's like the minute they added that refine hair button, and it's not perfect, don't get me wrong. There's 9 times out of 10 it works. But it's like when they did that, I was like, okay, that's really cool, because hair is really hard to rotoscope around. Right? And it's like, the difficulties of doing so. So you're like, wow, this is actually a really cool feature, and like I appreciate this. And I just think that appreciation flows throughout the whole artistic process.
I feel like,
but does that make the work better?
That's like,
it can, the
age-old fight with like technology, isn't it? Like, think about how all the lumberjacks felt when the chainsaw was invented.
That's true.
It's like, I've spent hours cutting down this one tree that so much work and effort put into it. And you come along with this chainsaw and it takes you like 5 minutes.
Does it affect the value of the tree? Now in that case, it's less artistic. So that's more of like a straightforward, the tree's cut, it's done, the job's done.
I'm really just trying to play devil's advocate here. I mean, which
is good.
There's plenty of times where, you see things, it's like, I know how to hold a camera in my hand and choose the right functions in the manual mode, not auto. And I know how to get the shot that I'm looking for. Right. And then you see somebody out there that's like, oh, I've shot everything on my cell phone and look how beautiful my art is. And I'm not saying that you can't do that and that it doesn't exist, but it's that different art form. It's hard to look at and be like, I respect it the same amount.
So I feel like I used to think about that a lot. Yeah. Was the idea of everything's already been done. But then people like Joel Haver came up, and this other dude that I plugged earlier, like these people went out of their way to go use software that was in alpha and beta, learned how to use it, and then created something, platforms like YouTube that have millions of uploads a week, maybe a lot, billions, of hours uploaded. And it's like, they made something no one ever had.
Yeah.
So to me,
Which is amazing. That I can get behind.
like, I think there's still like a lot of respect that goes towards people that do something more traditional. But I think as artists, everybody's always trying to find what's the new thing that I can do that nobody's ever done before.
Yeah.
And that's not always the healthiest feel, because, you know, like if you're a musician, or, you know, like how many different songs about guys breaking your heart or your truck breaking down can you sing?
It's true.
And how many videos can you put out that are about action and VFX and explosions and love stories and rom-coms? Like, after a while, the story just kind of repeats itself. So it's like, what can I do that's unique?
Look how many sequels we have right now.
All these reboots.
Hey, instead of making something new, let's reboot it.
Yeah. So like, I used to think that like, oh, everything's already been done because all these stories have already been told. But then new software or new technology comes out, and yet people continue to make things that no one's ever seen before.
Yeah.
It's like everybody's seen an animation, everyone's seen video games. So why is Joel Haver unique? It's because he found a bunch of cool things that he was genuinely interested in, including software that not many people had used, took the time and learned it, and then everybody watched it and they're like, dude, that's amazing. That had to be really time consuming. Like, there's art that goes into it, there's like creativity, there's the expertise and the knowledge that goes in investing in the learning software that doesn't come with instructions. So I don't know. I don't know where I fall on that, but I do think it's really cool that people still come up with unique ideas that are original.
Oh yeah. No, I agree with that. Because sometimes you do feel you're like, is it just the same thing over and over and over? It's refreshing. Yeah. Like, hey, look, something new. Thank you for pushing our industry.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think about art?
I just really like we're in an interesting time period right now with AI, because we are on the curve of where things can go. There's the implementation and like, it's just, I need to gather my thoughts. So when it comes to like, technology being developed, there's a curve that goes like, all right, like we're in early stages, then there's a huge explosion, and then just goes up and increases. And on these curves, in that middle area, you don't know where you are when you're in the middle of it. And right now we're in the middle of it with AI. So we have no idea if we're just on the cusp of finding out what we can do with AI, or if this is like it, if this is the best we can do. And we're in the middle of like a magical moment. We don't know if like AI is going to just unlock like cures to cancer, or if it's just going to continue to give us crappy videos on YouTube. So we're in the middle of this time. We get to live out this beautiful little moment of what AI maybe can turn out to be. Is it going to be like the new Apple computer that explodes and everybody like it wants a computer now? It's like, oh, it's super cool, I want an AI now.
Or is it going to be like the Samsung Note that literally explodes?
Right. It literally catches on fire.
Explodes and just destroys itself.
Yeah.
Or humanity.
Yeah.
Or do we get Skynet?
I don't know. Well, we technically got Skylink, Starlink.
And okay.
I mean, I feel like Elon could have called it Skynet. The negative connotation probably would have killed it in its tracks.
I'm honestly surprised he didn't.
Just for the meme.
Just for the meme.
Ludicrous speed on his cars. Why not?
He owns the freaking boring company.
Do you guys remember like a couple years ago when blockchain was like the whole like fad terms? Like, can we add blockchain to it? Now it has blockchain and whatever. Now, do you remember that at all?
I remember it was a buzzword that everybody
was. Yeah, I feel like AI is the new buzzword. It's like, can we have AI on that? It's like, no, it's just a button that lets you buy something on Amazon. We don't need AI.
David, do you remember HTC came out with a blockchain phone?
Oh my god! No.
What was it?
It was I guess
blockchain had some blockchain in it.
Yeah, just had some blockchain in it. Because I think one of the big things about blockchain is that it's decentralized, right? And so like a lot of people are into that whole decentralized, internet,
don't trust the system.
Don't trust the system. And so it's like it was like an off the grid type of phone.
So how is it decentralized, but there's a public ledger?
Well, that's what it means.
Yeah.
Because with banks, it's a centralized system where everything's being tracked by like certain
Specific
bodies.
entities.
Yeah, like without the United States government, the dollar wouldn't be worth anything. And that's what it means to be a centralized currency. One body is determining the value and all that stuff with it. Cryptocurrencies are decentralized. Everybody has to be in charge of it.
Okay.
It's for the people.
Of the people, by the people.
Interesting. I know that, I mean, originally whenever it boomed like 4 years ago or whatever, when it went from like 400 to 12K and then it bottomed out again, the main reason it blew up was because it became accessible to the Chinese economics.
Really?
And being decentralized, it couldn't be tracked. And a lot of people in a country where they're heavily observed by their people,
Yeah, no, that's the truth.
they wanted a currency that would allow them to make acquisitions unobserved. And
We still want to release this episode to the Chinese
what is
Spotify.
what is the
So let's stop
Billy?
there.
They have I think it's called Billy is like their YouTube over there, but it's specifically for like tech and gaming. So yeah, we would not be allowed on Billy over there.
Darn.
Oh, man.
I don't want anyone to disappear.
And episode 4, Cole's not here. We don't know where he is.
Going on vacation.
He's like, hey, you call into the podcast. You're like, hey, have you seen my Huawei phone or whatever it is?
Huawei. It's Huawei. Like, Kuhip.
It's got blockchain.
Blockchain. So yeah.
Wow, we have gone off the rails.
Yeah, a lot of blockchain on this one.
Blockchain, AI,
Blockchain.
Our podcast
buzzwords.
now has blockchain on it.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about Dogecoin, but yeah,
That's okay.
we don't need to.
We don't need to talk about that dog coin.
Dogecoin.
Talking about centralized, did you guys hear Illinois is wanting to ban GTA?
Are you talking about the video game?
Yeah, GTA, Grand Theft Auto.
I saw it on here and I was like, what?
Yeah, Marcus Evans, some senator or state rep from Illinois, said there's been an increase in carjackings, and a lot of these people are minors, and they believe that GTA's influenced them to be young, stupid, go steal cars, because the worst that's going to happen is you'll get a 6-month probation.
Is that really the worst that happens?
I feel like
steal a car?
I don't know if that's actually the worst, but
Okay.
they use that as the example of why kids feel that there's no remorse for stealing a car. No one gets hurt. It's just a piece of material. And it's like,
You know, with the recent release of Grand Theft Auto 5 in 2013, I guess it makes sense.
I know, right?
yeah,
Now in 2021, we're
All of a
feeling
sudden.
the effects.
yeah. So it just brings up the idea of whether or not the government gets a say in art and in restrictions of art. Like, and then also what is like your responsibility as a creator to like provoke people's minds? Like, are you like, at what point are you causing them to think too much about things? Because you want your viewers to be like, oh, that's interesting, I've never thought of that before. Versus, is there any responsibility on the artist and how people take your work?
That's a big question to answer
On a podcast.
on a podcast.
Riff it. What's your
Well,
gut instinct? What do you think?
My gut instinct on that, the problem is I fall somewhere in the middle because,
Because you have kids.
well, nah.
They're not mine.
I mean, I turned out okay. I played 3 or 4 different versions of GTA, so
We call that okay.
anyway, which I was gonna say, I'm like, first of all, how can they tie a direct correlation to GTA if they're just stealing a car? Because they're not stealing a car and then going to pick up a prostitute and then ditching the car and then
To clarify, the initial thought was GTA, but he is pushing for this to
Just
extend
entirety.
to all video
Okay.
games specific that insinuate certain things, specific types of illegal activities.
Here's the thing, okay? Here's the thing. I think that you can't, as an artist, right? I'm not sitting up there. Who makes GTA? Who's the developer on that?
Rockstar.
Rockstar. I'm not sitting there at Rockstar being like, I'm going to develop this game so I can have an influence on children, essentially, so that they'll go, kill or steal a car or whatever it might be, right? I mean, that's not my main thought, is to entertain it, I think GTA, one of the biggest things about it is like you can go on and you can do those things without recourse, but it's never run through my mind like, oh, maybe I could do this in real life because there is no recourse. And what I'm saying is, how is the developer responsible for the percentage of the population that might take it seriously?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's kind of where I fall, just because it's like, don't get me wrong. I mean, I get it. You can play both sides, but at the end of the day, you're going, oh, well, I can't make this game, like Red Dead. I can't make a game about cowboys in the West and shooting each other and killing each other, because people are going to go out and do the same thing to each other.
And then you get the question of what makes it acceptable. So GTA, murder and stealing cars is bad, but you play Call of Duty, and because it's a war-based game, not,
exactly
in a specific location, it's okay to shoot people there.
Right. Or because Assassin's Creed is you're in history and it's a fictional game, that it's okay to continually murder public figures.
Well, then that brings up the other moral question of what, like, of GTA being bad, but like Call of Duty's okay. It's like, so it's okay to kill people if it's war, and it's like murder versus killing, and like a huge argument or a debate to be had about all that. And I feel like collectively, speak for everyone, like as an artist, you should the old quote of comfort the comfort the distressed and distress the comfortable, or something like that.
I don't know.
Like, I've never heard that.
So like you should bring like people that are comfortable where they are in life usually are comfortable because they aren't questioning things enough. So you want to make them uncomfortable by presenting art that makes them think. And people that are uncomfortable because they are going through life and they have to deal with all these things, by putting out uncomfortable art, you're giving them something relatable. Whenever Taken comes out and some dude loses his daughter and he's on this journey to reclaim her
3 times.
Well, and then the same with like Nemo. It's just the kid version of it, right?
Yeah.
It's like you're giving people this idea of what it's like to lose someone, to long for them, and to go out for it. And some people live a good life. They never lose anybody. So to them, it's like, what is this idea of, oh, what would it be like to lose someone? It's like, that would be really hard. So these movies can invoke emotions that people wouldn't normally have.
It's true.
And for someone that has lost someone, they could watch that and understand, like, they could feel something from it as well. They could take something from it. So as an artist,
yeah, but I don't want to
stand by that.
I don't want to be responsible. How am I responsible for the person that watches Taken and goes, okay, now I'm going to go take somebody's kid, and hopefully they'll call me and it'll be Liam Neeson. And
that's my point, is I don't think it's the artist's responsibility. Your responsibility is to create something that makes people think, and thoughts are different than actions. People are responsible for their actions based on the U.S. law.
Yes.
You are responsible for your actions, except in very fringe cases. The law is made for the majority, not the minority. And there are people that get away with doing really bad things, but usually it's because they're deemed out of control of their actions. Like, their actions are beyond their capabilities of holding. And that's where you see like really bad stuff and people get away with it.
However, I have something to add, but I want to know what Cole...
No, I was just looking up that carjacking in Illinois is a class 1 felony, and it is punishable by 4 to 15 years in prison.
But what if it's a minor? That was their conversation. Was minors are getting like just a couple months.
Never even thought about
it. Or they'll go to juvenile, which is, usually it's expunged once you turn an adult, whatever. Like, that's all off the record because you weren't an adult. Now, if you're 17, you could be tried as an adult, etc.
I find it so interesting that people focus so much on video games when it comes to violence, because before there was video games, there would be movies about it where you could go and watch things of like similar nature happen. And before there was movies, there was, I don't know, radio shows, and then books and paintings. They would make giant paintings of battles, and you could go and just look at them. And why would you want to go look at a painting of a battle like that? Why would you want to go watch people be in the middle of dying?
Well,
it's
those are like artistic pieces, but then it's like, well, does that mean we get to legislate real acts that are recorded? So obviously there are certain illegal acts that if you recorded and uploaded, you would go to jail for.
Right.
Or it could be like it is moderated by the government essentially. And there are other illegal things that it's okay to post and nothing bad happens. So clearly the government already legislates what people can and can't see. So then you get into the
rating systems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at least then there's a rating system. But I was talking more of like actual like illegal things that if you upload, you go to jail for. Like there's no exemptions for that. So that's the government already has a historical what is it? If something's reoccurring precedent, a historical precedent for how they treat media being uploaded. And the only difference between this and those cases of illegal things being uploaded is these are considered art, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So
yeah,
falls under that category.
So yeah, I don't think we're gonna get any actual answer, but I just thought it was a cool idea to discuss. Considering it's relative to what we do, and somebody's voting on it right now.
Yeah, it's really strange.
And that industry can affect our industry. It can all come down the pipeline.
What we want to make or film or.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it would dictate what we're allowed to produce as artists, and that's pretty weird.
Yeah, that would be weird.
Yeah, what are you drawing in your notebook, kid? You know?
Yeah, is that lawful?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. At what point does the government get to dictate like your drawing? Is it at the point of sale? Oh, it's like you can draw it, you just can't sell it because you know. Or like, do you like arrest a kid because of what he drew? Like, because I mean, it's a video game versus a movie versus like a picture. Is it illegal if I take a bunch of pictures and then I flip them and now it's like it's a movie because what is it, a pictograph flip page book or whatever? It's like, is that illegal? There's too many variables. I don't know how you would ever moderate that on a legal scale. Like how would you even manage it? I don't think it's possible.
Yeah. And I skimmed a quick article and there's a couple other things that they think contribute to it. So
yeah, but that was what they wanted to vote on.
Correct.
Specifically.
Yes.
There's people who've brought up with, I don't know why video games get targeted so much, but like with the historical video games that people had a problem with like playing as a soldier on the opposite team, which happened to be Nazi Germany. It's like, why should we be forced to play as a Nazi? It's like, because there needs to be a Nazi team. This is World War II, and it's just like,
do you want
to play against AI the entire time?
Yeah, so like if you're playing an online game and there's two teams and the storyline of the game was like World War II, US is invading, and then there's a defending side. If you're playing online, there has to be opposition. So you're just saying that there were people complaining that they had to play as a Nazi. Yeah,
but since it's a World War II game and you want to be accurate to World War II, you don't want to just be red team versus blue team. It's
didn't a company just put out a game like that and then they changed World War II? They changed it from Nazis to something else.
I don't know.
That came out. I thought that was in the news like a couple of years ago, and the game flopped.
That might have been a Battlefield game.
I thought it was.
I feel like I played it recently, and I was very confused about how it was about World War II.
Yeah.
Like no zombies.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about Call of Duty, the Nazi zombies. Remember that?
Yeah. Nazi zombies was fun.
So like
that was a great game.
Yeah, no, that's another good one. It's like as an artist, is it okay to like take a piece of historical context and then alter it with creative intent? Because whenever they do it for Assassin's Creed, it's such a cool game. Like it takes, it's during like a historical piece and people love it because it's creative and new. But if you do it for World War II, it's bad.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You're like, where does...
like nobody wants to see a movie from like the Nazi perspective. Like you would just get a
it's
lot
kind of true,
crap.
yeah.
Well, like that's what if it was like historically accurate of like some guy's family like going through it, but nobody wants to see that, and nobody wants to argue to like we should see it, but like
you have the same thing for Japan side during Pearl Harbor. You have Mao China.
Yeah.
I've never played a video game where you're of the Mao dynasty, starving your own people, or Stalin starving your own people because you killed all the farmers.
Thousands of people.
Yeah, like press X to starve.
To your point, there's just
It's
no
a video game
games.
they use to weed out the people who would do it. They're like, if you hit
made the game,
if you hit X, you're out. But if you hit B and you feed your people,
Oh gosh,
holy moly!
But there's always, my point being with all this, there's always going to be people on both sides that think historical things should remain historical for for the concept of remembering them.
Yes.
And there's going to be people that like, what if we took a creative approach? And outside of video games, one of the better examples I could think of was Tom Hanks in the movie where he plays a dude with chocolate.
Dang, Forrest Gump, dude. That's like one of the best movies ever made.
It is.
Call yourself a filmmaker.
A lot of people were upset whenever that movie came out because Forrest Gump was a fictional person that takes place in a lot of historical events in an unrealistic manner, where he's a part of the Berlin Wall coming down, and then he's fighting in Vietnam.
There's a lot of amazing VFX shots in that movie.
There is.
They're really sorry, but
Great
it's
movie.
the first thing I think of because I'm like, knowing when it was made and then what they did, it was phenomenal.
Yeah. I mean, it's still one of my favorite movies.
Yeah,
That you couldn't remember.
in Apple because he liked apples.
Yeah. Played ping pong and went to the Olympics, the Chinese Olympics, I think.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So that was just another example of art where, while most people, majority of people that viewed it like the movie, there's always going to be a number of people that think historical things should stay historical. So again, no way to moderate it. Art's going to make art.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true.
Is it really art if you're not offending a couple people though?
At least you got viewers and
Hey, there's
Do it
always
for the view.
there's
there's always somebody out there thumbs downing something that we know is awesome.
Logan Paul out there is like making his living off of people hating his videos.
This is true.
And he's like, I want to see Money Mayweather hit him in the face. I just want to see him get punched. You know,
There's a long list of people probably. Including me. No, just kidding.
I have not kept track.
I could
of time.
care less.
Do you see the time code up there? Where we at? Are we good? I don't know.
2 hours.
We're
An hour
in
and 10
trouble.
minutes.
An hour and 10. All right. Well, is there anything on here that you want to touch on?
Nah, it's okay. We can roll over some of this. That way
Cruella DeVille trailer?
we can talk about it.
All right.
It's film.
David gets to pick.
What is it?
What's the next thing we talk about?
Daft Punk breaking up, Cruella DeVille's new trailer, the Sony FX3, or shirts.
Well, the only thing I've heard in the list was Daft Punk.
Is that what you want to talk
That's
about?
the only thing I've heard about for like the past couple days is Daft Punk breaking up.
Okay.
And like,
Wah, wah, wah.
I don't want to be insensitive, but like, how long do bands normally make music and then decide to stop anyway? Like, isn't it like 28 years? Isn't that like a really good run?
It is a really good run, unless you're like Metallica or Ozzy Osbourne
Yeah.
Really?
or Kiss.
Yeah.
Those guys have been doing it forever and a half.
They're never going to stop.
He has a song that's
Never gonna die.
Tag Team has the commercial about the cookie dough. They're still together.
This is true. Scoop, there it is. That's the most dad commercial I've ever seen.
I liked it. It was good.
But anyways, 28 years.
Daft Punk, man. Like, I think it's a weird idea. As an artist, you make art and put it out into the world, and you hope people like it. But whenever that following gets so intense or so big, you're always going to have people on the edge that are just a little too much of fans. They're a little too friendly with their opinions. And
Yes.
as an artist, to have people that like help support you and get you where you are and make you famous or whatever, tell you what you can and can't produce, or who you can and can't work with, or when you can quit or when you have to release albums is such a weird thing.
Well, nobody knows who they look like, right? That they've had
I don't think so.
their masks on the entire time.
Yeah.
Good on them. That's one of the smartest things they probably have ever done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although I agreed, one of you guys said it earlier. It's like, why don't they just put new people in the mask and just keep the thing going?
Yeah, 300 years of Daft Punk. Nobody knows how they lived forever, but it had something to do with
They're
blockchain.
not people anymore. It's just an idea. People. Blockchain.
Oh my God.
All the blockchain.
Not the blockchain people.
All right,
Just AIs.
Yeah, if you like blockchain, better like this video. That's the podcast. That's it.
Oh, wow. We're done.
That's it. We're done.
Yeah.
Bye. Bye. See you in 2 weeks.
We did not mention what we're gonna talk about next one. No leads, but it's all good.
Nothing's happening next time. Next time we talk about Neanderthals.
Did they make art? We'll never know.
They just rubbed their own feces on cave walls.